What's going on, YouTube fam? Welcome back to the channel. This is a video that I've been planning to do for a little while. There's a couple reasons why I haven't done it yet, but basically I'm going to show you guys how to do a deep cleaning on the Smart Grinder Pro from Breville. Okay, so the Breville Smart Grinder Pro, we're going to do a deep cleaning. I'm going to show you guys how to take it apart, how to disassemble both burrs, the top burr, the bottom burr, and how to get to the bottom of this and clean it completely out. So one of the first things I want to mention is that it is a quite easy job. Okay, don't be intimidated by having to take the machine apart. Okay, don't think of it like, oh my god, it's such a big deal. It's not. It's very easy to do. So that's the first thing I want to tell you, is that the fact that you have to take it apart and clean the burrs is not a big deal. Okay, so that's the main thing. The main thing that I want to accomplish with this video is showing you guys how to do the deep cleaning. But there's a few other things I want to talk to you guys about. Okay, so I'm going to put a timestamp right here. So if you guys want to get right down to the nitty gritty here, how do you take this thing apart, how do you clean it, then go ahead, move forward to that timestamp, and you can start the video again from the spot where I start taking it apart. But I do want to address a few other things. I want to talk to you guys about a few other things that have come up, a few questions that I've gotten, and a couple of issues that I've run into. And all of this you might find useful in your own experience. And by the way, if you guys have an answer to some of these problems or some of these things that I've run into, go ahead and comment below. Okay, we can learn together. I always answer everyone that leaves me a message, and I try to help them as best as I can. And by the way, if you guys haven't seen the first video I did on the whole coffee machine and the grinder, take a look at it. On that video, I get into details on how to dial in a shot. Okay, let's say that you just bought this equipment, you're brand new to it, and you want to get right down to it and have a good starting point to getting a good coffee shot. Okay, so on that video, I get into details on how to dial it in. Okay, so again, today is mainly about the grinder, how to clean it, how to do a deep cleaning. And when I first was thinking of getting a grinder, and I wanted to get into this whole coffee making espresso and grinding my own beans and all that stuff, which by the way, I'm still glad that I did it. I'm very happy with that decision. But anyway, let me finish with what happened about the whole subject with the cleaning. When I first was addressing whether I wanted to get into grinding my own coffee, I asked around, okay, and people told me that what I should do is get this product right here. Okay, this is called Grinds, and this is made mainly from rice. It has a few other ingredients, but this stuff is mainly made from rice, and it's what a lot of people use to clean the grinder. Okay, so and not just this grinder, any kind of coffee grinder. But what I found is that when I use this product, yes, it's easy because you just portion it out and you put some in there, maybe 20 grams or so, and you run it, and it'll kind of clear some of the old coffee out and the oils and all of that. And then after you do that, you run some fresh coffee through the machine and kind of gets this stuff out. But then what I found is that there's always a lot of this stuff gunked up in there, and it's just not, I didn't like the process. Okay, to me it seemed like just as dirty as after I did this, as before I did this. It just ended up being a whole bunch of this gunk in there, and coffee as well. So that's when I got into the whole, how to do a deep cleaning, how to take this thing apart, and how to go about it that way. So I'm very happy that I did go that route and take it apart and clean it that way, because it's so easy to do. It's just very easy to do. It takes only a few minutes, and you can do a real good deep cleaning of the machine, and you don't have to gunk it all up with this stuff. Okay, and you don't have to buy it either. The stuff is not like super cheap either, so it's just easier to take it apart. Now, what do you need to take it apart? Oh, before I get into that, and again, that's why I gave you guys the timestamp, because this video is going to be a little bit all over the place, because I wanted to talk to you guys about a lot of things. And something that I've been thinking about is the following. If you haven't even bought the machine yet, this video is in particular to the Breville Infuser, the 840 XL model, okay, and the Breville Smart Grinder Pro. But it's pretty much the same machine. This combination of equipment is almost the same that what you get on the Breville Barista Express, or the Breville, the Barista Pro, I believe it's called, and a few other ones. They're basically the same thing. The way you take it apart and some of the components are exactly the same. The way to dial in the shot and how to go about cleaning it and all that stuff, it's all the same. So the Barista Express, the Barista Pro, the Smart Grinder Pro, the Breville Infuser, all of these machines are basically the same thing, okay? So something I've been thinking about is, who is this equipment, like who is it good for? Like, is it good for like just anyone? And you know what, my answer to that is probably not, okay? If you are a person that wants to do this as a hobby, the same way I got into it, I wanted to learn about espresso. I wanted to be able to buy different beans from different places and experiment with that. I wanted to, the actual manual part of it, of, you know, the tamping and measuring stuff, and I wanted to learn all of that stuff. If you don't think that you want to learn all these things and you just want to get a shot of coffee, okay, go to Starbucks, okay? Don't get into all of this. This is way too much for someone that's all they want. Or get one of those little pod machines, put your little pod, get your coffee out and be done with it, because I don't think this will be right for you. First of all, is the investment, okay? So I think if you get and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, that's not the one I got, and I didn't Google this before making the video, but I think the Barista Express, which is the one that a lot of people get, it runs for about $700, okay? The Barista Pro, which has a few extra features and stuff, but it's basically the same thing, kind of. That one runs for about $1,000. The Breville Infuser, which is the one I got, the Breville Infuser, I think is running for about $500 or $600. The Breville Smart Grinder Pro is about another $200. So if you get the Express or the Barista Express or the Barista Pro, that one already comes with the same grinder built in all in one body. The Infuser is just a coffee machine, and then you can choose whatever grinder you want to use. The Smart Grinder Pro is kind of matches perfectly with the machine. It's the one that pretty much goes along with it, and that's why I went that route. Something to keep in mind, if you get the Barista Express or the Pro, the chassis of the machine is larger than it is on the Infuser, so counter space becomes an issue. In my case, right now I have a big counter so I can keep everything out, but you do have the option to just, you know, put away your grinder and only bring it out when you need it. So, but in the case of the Barista Express and the Pro, you're gonna have to keep the whole thing on the counter, and it takes up a lot more counter space, just so that you know. Besides, you might wanna get a different type of grinder. So that leads me to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which was, you know, the decision I made on getting the Infuser and getting the Smart Grinder Pro. I've had it already for almost 2 years. So do I feel like this was still the right decision? Well, first of all, for me, since I wanted to get into the hobby, yes, okay? I think this is a great startup combination to start with, and I'm sure the Barista Express and the Pro are also great choices because it's what a lot of people get, okay? And everything I've heard about those machines are great as well, okay? That people love them. Now, after a couple years of having them, I feel no like urgent need to upgrade my espresso machine. I'm very happy with the Infuser. I think it pulls a great shot. It has given absolutely no problems at all. And but as far as the grinder specifically, okay, I still think it was a great choice, and I'm not gonna upgrade it, not anytime soon. At least I don't think so. But here's where I'm at with that, okay? Man, I've been like really wanting to get a niche zero, okay? A niche zero. If you guys don't know what that is, Google it, okay? I believe it's N-I-C-H-E. And this is a grinder, okay? It's a grinder for single dose, okay? And that's how I use my grinder. I have the Smart Grinder Pro. It's not a single dose machine because it has a hopper where you keep beans on it. I don't keep beans in there. I've told you guys in the first video, again, watch the first video where I show you how to dial in your shot, and on there I cover my whole process and how I do this, okay, and the way I keep it constant and how I consistently get great results time after time, every single time. So being that the Niche Zero is perfect for single dose, and that's the way I use it, and just it's so well made, it looks so nice. I wish they made it in like a stainless steel finish, which they don't, but if they did, that would be perfect for me. It comes in white and it comes in black. So, you know, I will probably be inclined to getting the white one. It's the one I like more. But the Niche Zero is I'm really considering like maybe upgrading to that in the future. I really like it. People rave about it. They say it's like the best thing since sliced bread. So I really, and again, it's just because it's a hobby, okay? It's something that you want, not something that you need, okay? So it's, again, you get a hobby, you get into it, you learn more, and you want to upgrade your equipment, you want to do different things and try out different stuff. So right now, the espresso machine, I'm super happy with it. And the grinder, I'm still super happy with it. But I have had an issue, and I want to tell you guys about that. So I'm going to tell you guys about the issue that I had with the grinder. But it's the only piece that I'm thinking of perhaps upgrading in the future. Okay, so let's talk about what issue did I have with the grinder. And by the way, it's sitting here next to me on the coffee table right in front of me, because I'm gonna take it apart in a second, and I'm gonna put the camera in an angle looking from the top down so you guys could see what I'm doing. And this is a lot more comfortable. It's a lot lower than my kitchen counter. So it's just easier to take it apart here when I'm filming, okay? So I'm gonna show you guys that in a minute. But let's talk about the problem that I had, the issue that I run into. First of all, I only make espresso on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday. I usually make a couple shots on Saturday, a couple shots on Sunday. I always make double shots. I explained that on the other video. But that's as much as I use it, so I use it very little. Up until then, up until recently, I had not cleaned the grinder still. I didn't see a point in cleaning it. Everything was working perfectly fine. It tasted perfectly fine. And again, I was intimidated in having to take this whole thing apart. And I didn't want to run the grinds, this stuff. I didn't want to run this stuff through it because, again, I didn't want it to get gunked up with that white stuff. This is not the first grinder I ever had. I have another grinder that I use only for drip coffee. And I use this one only for my espresso. The other grinder is a burr grinder, a conical burr grinder, the same like this one. And it does a great job. In my opinion, it does a great job for drip coffee. So that's the one I use for drip coffee. And but it does not make espresso, okay? It will not grind fine enough. And the adjustments that are made with it are not small enough to be able to tinker around and get your shot to come out just perfect, okay? If you don't know about grind size and about what I'm talking about when you have to grind really fine and what happens when you do and why would you grind finer or coarser, again, watch the first video. I get into all of that and I explain that. Okay, but let's talk about the problem that I had, so the issue that I ran into. So recently I was grinding and all of a sudden the machine just started taking really long to finish. When I get a new bag of coffee, usually I do grind at 18 grams and I grind it at 20. The grinder sitting right here next to me, that's why I keep pointing this way, is right here, right next to me. So basically, I start with 18 grams, I grind it. Okay, YouTube fam, so it is proving to be quite challenging for me to do these tutorial videos. Yesterday I ran out of time, I had to continue now today. I'm wearing the same clothes so that when I edit this, and I go back and forth, it's not really distracting with different clips and different clothes, obviously. But the lighting has changed and some of the things I'm sure you'll be able to notice. But anyway, yesterday I kind of ran out of time on where I was, and I want to keep going with this video, okay? So like I was telling you guys, I was grinding coffee and it was taking really long. It took more than double the amount of time that normally it takes. Usually when you go grind those 18 grams, it takes about 20 seconds to grind it. And then all of a sudden, on this particular day, it was taking like a minute or more to grind. So I had to start it. I remember I started it like twice, three times, maybe like three times, and the coffee still wouldn't finish grinding. So, and then when I tried to make the shot, I could see that something had gone horribly wrong because nothing came out, no water. That means you're choking up the machine. You cannot build enough pressure to brew through that fine coffee that you just packed into your portafilter. Okay, the finer you pack it, the more pressure that the machine needs to build and the longer the shot takes. Okay, so I started to look up information. What could be causing this? What happened? I mean, all of a sudden it was fine the week before and now something went wrong, right? So I started to do some research, and my first thought was that perhaps I ran into a couple of people talking about this piece here. Okay, this piece here, it's at the bottom of the coffee grinder, and this is what pushes the grinds out of the machine as they get ground. So the burrs are grinding your coffee, and this thing is spinning in there, pushing the coffee out, okay, expelling it from the grinder. Now, as I did more research, I saw that my particular unit, it's a newer Smart Grinder Pro, and mine, this piece is metallic. It's like aluminum, but I could see that it also has some little teeth in there that are plastic, and maybe they wore off. So, because people say this piece wears out, so it starts to wear, and these little blades that you see here, they get worn, and then the coffee does not come out of the machine, and it just keeps grinding or something, and that's what, then you get that fine, super fine coffee, and it doesn't come out of the machine. It takes long. So I thought maybe that's the problem I'm having. Now I realized that I don't think this is gonna make any difference. Today when we take it apart, I'm gonna try this anyway. I mean, I already bought it. I'm gonna put it in there, see, first of all, to see if it fits in there and to see if it works. But I'm gonna try that. I don't think it's gonna make any difference. I think that the problem that I ran into is something else. Some people were talking, I heard another couple of people talking about coffee getting into like under the bottom of some washers that are in there. You'll see when we take it apart now, you'll see, I think that's what they mean, that coffee kind of builds up in there and it pushes the burr just slightly up. You hardly won't be able to tell, but it pushes the burrs just a little bit closer together, and that's what causes that it's taking long and that you get that really fine grinds. And I think that's what happened in my case, and I'll tell you why. So the first thing I did was do a cleaning. Then I thought like, well, now I really have to take this thing apart and do a cleaning. I haven't had any issues, or I haven't felt like there's any real reason to clean this thing out and do a deep cleaning. Again, I use it very little, and I didn't see a point in doing it. But now I thought like, well, now I really have to do it. So I looked up what parts I need to disassemble the machine, and that's what we're gonna cover right now. Basically, you need a 10mm socket, okay? It's a little socket, okay? You need a 10mm socket and something to be able to use it. So I think the easiest way to go about it is get a screwdriver that has the bit at the bottom of the screwdriver where you can lock into the socket and then use it with just a screwdriver. I think that's probably the cheapest way to go about doing it. You just buy the socket, you buy the screwdriver that accepts this end to it, or you buy some kind of connecting piece to do it and just use a screwdriver. But in my case, I have the little extension, and you'll see you're gonna need, with a screwdriver, you won't need the extension. But if you're gonna use a little ratchet, like I'm doing, okay, you will need the little extension. So basically, you put the extension on the little ratchet, you put the socket on the extension, and that's what you need to disassemble the machine. And in a second, we'll get into that. All right, guys, so you are looking at the grinder from the top down now. You see it there. I'm gonna show you guys how to disassemble this thing. Okay, so I took off obviously the lid of the hopper here that holds your coffee beans. And this is real easy. Just turn it, okay, counterclockwise, and it will unlock and you can remove it. That simple, okay? It has these little kind of teeth here that they align with indentations on here. You line it up and you lock it, okay? When it's locked, the grinder will work. When it's unlocked, there's a switch inside that will stop the grinder from working. So if you put this back on and your grinder's not coming on, it's maybe because you forgot to lock it or you didn't lock it properly, okay? So that's real easy, guys, okay? You unlock it, you remove it, that's your burr set. Okay, so like I was telling you guys, when I ran into the problem, the coffee was grinding for really long. It wasn't finishing. and it started taking like 3 times as long to grind the coffee, and the coffee was way too fine and I couldn't even work with it, okay? After I did the cleaning, the problem went away, but it's still taking really long to grind the beans. That part, if you guys know about that or why that's happening, please let me know, because I still haven't figured that out. It still takes not 3 times as long, but it is taking twice as long to grind the coffee into it and for it to come out when I'm grinding. Now, again, it might have something to do with this little piece, which you will see in a minute once we get to the bottom of this, but I don't think so, because mine is supposedly been upgraded and it has you'll see it's made out of metal, and I don't think that's the problem, but we're gonna try anyway. If next time that I use the grinder, it grinds in 20 seconds like it used to, and I'm done, then I know that this was the problem as well. So we'll see. Okay, so how do you remove the top burr? So simple. Again, counterclockwise. You see this little ring? It's usually laying flat here at the bottom. You bring it up. There's the little ring, okay? And you go counterclockwise until it clicks, and you pull straight up, and that's it. That's the top burr. Simple as that. One thing that I suggest, guys, is that you put the items that we're gonna remove, put them in order, okay? That way when it's time to put it all back together, okay, you don't have to try to remember what goes where. It's in the same order as you took it out. It'll be laying there, and you just go in reverse order back in, and you're done. Now, I told you guys I've had a couple of problems. One problem was, the main problem is that it was taking super long to grind, and it was coming way too fine. I couldn't brew anything. After I cleaned it, the problem with that being too fine, that went away. Now, again, I'm grinding at the same settings as I was previously. When I make adjustments, you make an adjustment of 1 or 2 numbers on the grinder, and it does adjust up and down perfectly. Everything's working perfectly, except that it's still taking kind of like double as long as it used to take. But yeah, basically, it's grinding perfectly now. It's grinding perfectly, except that it's taking kind of long. I don't know why. Something else I want to mention, guys, is about retention. Remember, we talk about the niche 0, why it is that I'm kind of wanting to upgrade to it, because it's beautiful, because it works, but also because of that 0 retention, or the retention is minimal, okay? On here, after I clean it out, the very first time that you grind, it is going to retain maybe 5 or 6 grams, a big difference. So the first time that you grind, you are gonna have to weigh the coffee beans, grind, and then weigh what you got out, because there will be a big difference. The first time, the second time, maybe by around the third time, the difference starts to become minimal, and then you no longer have to weigh it. The very first, second, and maybe even up to the third time that you use it, after you did a deep cleaning, it will retain quite a bit of coffee. So be very careful, weigh the coffee before and after, so that you get a proper shot, okay? If not, you're gonna kind of mess it up. Okay, so we're about to take this thing apart. It's very simple. Again, guys, I told you about the tools that you need earlier in the video. What else should I tell you? Okay, this little nut that we're gonna remove is backwards threaded, okay? So usually you tighten clockwise, you loosen counterclockwise. This one is backwards. You're gonna have to loosen clockwise and tighten counterclockwise. You have to switch this, okay, and that's it. It's loose. We're gonna remove this first little nut. Okay, there it is. That's the first piece that you get out. And again, you just put them in order. Next to that one. Now you know that when you go put it back in, it's all backwards and you're done. Okay, I'm putting some extra light in there. Okay, I'm shining some extra light in there so that you could see. I used a little brush and kind of turned it upside down in the sink before bringing it out here, because if not, I would have had more coffee like all around here and all that stuff, but I kind of got some of it out so that it doesn't make a mess once I get it out here. But basically, guys, it's very simple. I remove those first 2 little parts. Then you have 2 little washers here. You have this one that kind of has an open area there. I don't remember what those are called, but I think they have a name. Comment below if you know. Okay, then you have a second one. Okay, so now we got two of these out. The first one has that opening on it. This one is completely closed. It's just a regular little washer. So you have two little washers. Okay, and then your bottom burrs come out. Be careful because this is kind of sharp, okay? So, you know, just be careful. So that comes out. That's your bottom burr right there. So now we have the top burr on the table, the bottom burr right here, that goes there. So now everything is in order. Now the last little piece you're gonna have to kind of have to finesse out of here. It is loose. There's nothing to loosen up or anything, but you use like a knife or some kind of little tool to prop it up and kind of bring it out. I'll show you guys in a second. Okay, so the hardest part of the whole job is just bringing this up, but it's not a big deal, okay? This is from one of those clips that you use to clip paper together, or you could use a paper clip or whatever, just bend it a little bit and use it kind of to pry it up, and then use a knife to kind of finesse this thing out of there. It's not a big deal, okay? Just remove this thing. To put it back in is very simple because of the shape of it. It only fits one way, so it doesn't, you cannot go wrong, okay? So you remove that. So really guys, there is nothing here that is a big deal. This is very easy to do. Before I remove the rest of the stuff, I'm gonna take this over to the sink again, and I'm going to empty all this kind of loose coffee out of there. So, and then I'll remove the last of the stuff so that you could see. Just be careful, if you do it this way, there is a washer there that maybe is gonna come out. There's two washers. There's two washers and then a little felt, a felt washer, I guess you would call it. And I'll show you guys in a minute. That was the other little problem I had, was actually, this thing is like super delicate. Just be very careful with the felt. If you kind of brush it or you try to clean it in any way, you're probably gonna break it. All right, guys, so I have a little brush that I used to, you know, clean in there and stuff like that. But, you know, that's another thing that makes it easy to have the grinder separate. Like in this case, I just turn it upside down and kind of, you know, use my brush, and right away the little felt came out. Here's the little felt. Again, don't try to clean that. Don't do anything with that. Don't touch it. You have to touch it, but just be careful with it. Yeah, even if you're really careful, you know, eventually you might break this. I'm gonna give you guys the part number. I recently called Breville and ordered the felt washer. On here, guys, you'll see the part number and you see the cost. That is for two of them. I ordered two of them just to have some spares. Again, if you're really careful with it and don't try to like clean it or anything, perhaps you'll never have to replace it. But, you know, since I was ordering some stuff anyway, I went ahead, I ordered a couple of them. But notice that they're like $5 something each. What a ripoff. Anyway, I also ordered some descaling solution, the powder to descale the machine. If you guys want, you can get the part number for that as well. You see it here. And I also ordered the water filter that goes inside the machine. I think that came in a pack of 6, as you could see here. Anyway, guys, and the descaler, I believe that came in a pack of 4. So anyway, everything is on here on the receipt. You guys could see it, get the part numbers. This came, again, directly from Breville. I actually called in, because if you look on their website, you'll never find the little part number for the washer. I actually had to call in and get somebody to help me, and they were able to find that part number, and I have them on order. So as soon as they come in, maybe I'll do an updated video to this one, and I will tell you guys about the felt washer, if it worked, if it's the same one, and so on and so forth. Again, be looking out for the video on the cleaning of the Breville infuser and the descaling, and it will probably be pretty much the same process. It is pretty much the same process as the Breville Barista Express and the Barista Pro. By the way, look at this thing. This is just a little piece of felt, okay? There's people that actually hack it and make their own. I haven't tried to do that yet. I might do that. But I ordered the one from Breville. But believe it or not, the stupid little thing is like $5 something. They sell it for $5 and some change for that little felt. Okay, so here's one of the little washers came out. Here's the other one. Now, if you cannot turn this upside down because you're using the Breville Express, the Barista Express, or the Breville, the Barista Pro, one of those machines that you cannot just turn it upside down, then basically, you know, some people use a vacuum. Just be careful because you might vacuum up that felt. You might want to remove the felt first and then vacuum and get some of it out, and then, you know, until you can clean it all out. But basically what you want to do is empty everything out, leave everything nice and clean. If you have the standalone unit like I do, it's so much easier to clean it and do what you got to do. But anyway, let's try to get this last little washer out of here. It's loose, I just got to get it out. All right, just be patient, guys, and you'll be able to get it out. But anyway, now we know that at the bottom, we're gonna have this piece, right? This is what expels the coffee out of the machine. That's why I was telling you guys that our mine is made out of metal. I have these two washers, right? And I have the little felt. So the two little washers go one on top of the other. The felt goes around the two little washers. Then you put this in, okay? You can only do it one way, so you can't get it wrong. Then you put your bottom burr, then you do this one, then you do this one, then you put the little nut on top of that, and then you put your top burr on and you lock it in, and you put the hopper back on and you're done. This doesn't take any time. I mean, obviously I'm taking a little bit longer because I'm explaining and all of that, but this is a 10-minute job. With a little bit of practice, this is a 10-minute job or less. All right, guys, so I took everything over to the sink. I gave it a good wipe. I used the brush, and I used the rag to get everything nice and clean. I clean underneath too. You want this really nice and clean because when this goes back on, if it gets pushed up even just a little bit, you're gonna have problems with your grind size. Okay, so make sure everything's nice and clean, top, bottom. And then, you know, just with the brush and with a rag, clean everything out. Some people maybe soak this in soapy water and then rinse it. I don't go that far. I don't want this thing to start rusting or something from getting it wet. So I just kind of like clean everything dry. Okay, now in regards to this, okay, this thing does not fix any kind of problem with this machine, okay? This doesn't even fit in here, okay? So no, do not buy this. It's not gonna help you to fix this problem. Again, here's the one that comes with our machine, and like I said, it was updated and now it's metal. Now, what I'm thinking though is that you see it's plastic underneath, and that it has the little blades, and maybe these little blades are getting worn, and maybe that's why it's taking long. I don't know. This is the part that I'm still struggling with. I know it's still working. My coffee comes out just fine. My grind size, again, after I cleaned it, that problem went away and it started working perfectly. So all of that's been fixed. The only thing is that before, when I would grind 18 grams of coffee, it would take about 20 seconds. Now it's taking 40 seconds about, okay? And when I had the problem, it was taking way longer. It was taking 60 seconds or maybe even longer to get my 18 grams out. And that's when it was grinding like super, super fine, and I couldn't even work with it. Now, after I cleaned it out, everything went away. I can dial in my shot just as before, and it's working just fine. Everything's perfect. It's just taking a bit longer. Some people have mentioned that perhaps is the type of beans, that these are harder beans, so it takes longer to break down. But I don't think it's that, because I have used these beans before and it used to take 20 seconds. I ordered them again. I've ordered them more than once. And now it's when it's taking longer. So I don't think that holds true here. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of it. I will update this video, maybe make a new video if I ever come up with the answer. If somebody knows, please let me know. Anyway, I'm gonna take the body of the machine now over there and give it a quick cleaning with the rag and the brush and clean everything out, and then we'll put it back together. All right, guys. So that little brass piece that you see here at the bottom, make sure that that's really clean. When you put the washers in there, when you put everything in there, you don't want any coffee on here, because again, it might mess with your grind size. It might push everything up a little bit. That is an issue that I have heard some people have. Again, I'm not having that issue now because my grind size is perfect and I can adjust it perfectly. It's just with the timing, something with the timing. Okay, if you don't have the standalone grinder like this one, if you have the Barista Express or the Pro, you're gonna need a vacuum. Okay, you're basically gonna need a vacuum, because to get everything out of there, you will have to eventually vacuum it out, because you won't be able to use the brush and turn it upside down like I do, which is very easy. But you're gonna need a vacuum to get the stuff out of there. Okay, so again, guys, don't let this job intimidate you. This is a 10-minute job. It's very easy to do, okay? So first, the two little washers. These two are exactly the same. It doesn't matter which one goes first or second. It doesn't matter. Drop them in there. Done. Then your little felt. Again, with this, do not mess with it. Do not mess with it. Mine is already kind of like falling apart. That's why I ordered two of them. Reach out on Instagram. I'll give you guys the part number if everything works well, okay? So the little felt goes around the little brass piece and the little washers. It's kind of to prevent what I was telling you guys from coffee to dig in under there and push everything up. Even a small amount of coffee and they're pushing things up will cause the problem where you start grinding very fine, okay? Okay, so after that is this piece, and this again, so guys, just to repeat, do not buy this thing. This is useless for this machine, you know. And you know what? I think I read that this was for the but this didn't come from Breville, by the way. It did not come from them, so I cannot blame them. I bought this off of Amazon, and this is wrong, at least for the Breville Smart Grinder Pro. It's definitely doesn't go in there. So this thing can only go in one way because of the shape of it. So once it lines up, it's gonna drop right in. Now it drops in. The two metal washers and the felt are completely underneath this thing now. Then since I laid everything on the table in order, you just go in reverse order. But you see this has the two little holes for the two little pins. And this is so simple. Make sure everything's clean. But this is so simple. Just line it up and drop it in. That's it. Once it drops in, you're good to go. I'm not sure if the order of these washers matters, but the one that's completely closed, that goes in first, and then the locking one, or the one that has the little opening, that goes on top. And then this thing, remember, is to tighten. You have to go counterclockwise, which is usually that's the other way around. But this is like I told you guys, is backwards threaded. So you kind of do it by hand. Make sure it tightens. And then at the end, let me switch this to go the other way. Make sure it's nice and tight, and that's it. And then we're gonna drop in our top burr. Okay, so something else I want to mention before I put the top burr back in. You see this little red dot? So underneath this red dot, you can see is this the ring goes right in this little hole. That's right there where the red dot is. This is how it comes from factory. Now what this does is that it locks in the setting of the top burr. This has you can adjust this even further than just when you move the knob. That gives you your adjustment of how fine or how coarse you're going, right? Maybe one day that stops, you're already at 1 and you need it finer, for example. I don't know how often that happens or if it's something that's common or not, but I know it does happen. And then that's when this comes into play. Because from factory, it comes set somewhere in the middle. Mine came set at 6. But I can go a lot finer. I can go to 5, to 4, to 3, all the way down to 1. So you remove this ring. And you turn it until it lines up with the 3, and then you lock it back in. And that's how you can get your top burr to grind even finer or coarser if you need to make that adjustment ever. I've never had to mess with it so far. But again, that adjustment exists. If I ever have to do that, guys, I will maybe make another video in regards to that. But anyway, what you do now, so forget about the dot. That's what the dot is for. The little arrow that you see, the little arrow tip there, that goes, you line this up where, right here where it says align, okay? Let me shine some extra light on there. Gosh. Okay. I don't know if you could see in there now, but it says align on here. That's where you drop it in, okay? You drop it in where it says align, it's gonna drop in, and then you turn it clockwise until it locks. It says lock, okay? It lines up, the little arrow with lock, and you hear it click. You press this thing down, you move the little ring or this thing back down on this side, and that's it, you're done. This is a deep cleaning. This is as clean as you can get this thing. Again, remember about retention. You're gonna have a lot of retention in the first, 3 or 4 times you use it. So that's it, guys. Again, let me show you how this goes one more time. You kind of start right here where it says align. You feel it drop in. Once you feel it drop in, like right there, you can see it's not, and then it drops in, right? Once it drops in, you turn it until it says lock, you'll hear it click, and you're pretty much done. You fold that down. Well, another thing, I think I mentioned it, but guys, be careful, the burrs are a little bit sharp when you're cleaning this stuff out. Be careful, don't get cut. And now again, the little teeth and the little indentations there. Drop it in, lock it in, and you're done. That's a cleaning. A deep cleaning on the Breville Smart Grinder Pro. Okay, I've already said it a couple of times. Guys, don't let this job intimidate you. It's so simple. It's a 10-minute thing. Once you've done it a couple of times, you're gonna do this with your eyes closed. Again, remember, you're gonna need a little vacuum. If you have the Express or the Pro or the Barista Pro, that's the whole big machine, you cannot turn it upside down like you do with this, okay? So just vacuum it all out, use your little brush, use a rag, get it all nice and clean. 10-minute job, you're done, okay? Guys, like the video, please subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna do the video on the cleaning and descaling of the machine. It'll be pretty much the same process, whether you have the infuser, the Barista Express, the Breville Barista Pro, any one of these machines, you pretty much do the cleaning, or the descaling of the machine is pretty much the same. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know maybe it got a little bit long. Anyway, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Please follow me on Instagram, reach out, send me a DM or comment below. Let me know what it is you want to know, and let's talk about it, guys. Let's build the little family, the little community that we got going of coffee aficionados. And I'll see you guys next week.
Keep it up one more minute. Keep it up, you're so great. Standing, talking, you got me checkmate. No one's watching and